Welcome to Loleventvods. Watch the full game of today's LTA 2025 matchup.
Are experimenting with. I've been seeing it on more and more champs. You're just using it. It's the same kind of philosophy that you do with MF, where when you get this, you can't be pushed out. You can just maintain prio through mid lane, and you really aren't going to be worried about poke whatsoever. Has a lot of power here, but we're into game 2, and a lot of mid lane bans getting thrown out here by Shopify.
Yep, Shopify are going to target Quad with the Cassiopeia and the Rise ban. Over on the other side, interestingly, even though we had the sides swap this time, FlyQuest is doing the same first 2 bans that Shopify did in the previous game of Varus Vi, keeping those meta picks gone.
So this is actually so interesting because I was talking to a couple of pros, and this is maybe like controversial or whatever, but a few people were telling me that they think basically like Quad is getting too much credit for his current level of play, and that they were saying they thought he would be exposed once he's actually forced off of his couple mages that are his comfort picks, and he's having to play melee champs.
Okay.
And so I feel like with the Azir is out, and they're going to triple ban. Well, I mean, it could be, Nico support, whatever you want to argue, right? But like a lot of these kind of like AP mages that he's comfortable on are now taken out. So it would be very interesting to see what Quad goes to and how he performs on it, because there seems to be this opinion that based off of scrims, a lot of mid laners and teams are thinking Quad is not as good as he used to be. And if we can just push him further in a series and tax his champion pool a bit, we can get an advantage.
And he's also going to be up against Palafox's Yone, which has historically been one of his better picks. It's one of the champions that even when the team is struggling, even when he individually has been struggling, he has put up better performances on Yone than on other picks. So I think this is one where if you're saying, all right, we want to full send the Quad is fraud narrative here in this game too, we're going to do it by not only focusing his picks, but getting our guy his prio pick, first pick blue side.
But there are, of course, still a lot of mages that he could go to. I think it's probably just going to be Grasp Victor. There's been some really tanky builds that are floating around. Some people are doing even just like Catalyst into Leandries. Some people are obviously doing Roa into Leandries. These very, very kind of like beefy builds where it's tough to actually push him out. Shen would be a lot of fun to see. I don't think we're going to see a Shen blind, but Shen is actually quite strong in this patch, can be played in multiple roles, and has received 3 straight buffs across different patches. So it can be pretty powerful. Rumble, good pairing here with the Yone, of course. The Yone goes in, snaps them together. You drop the equalizer, you throw it on the bullet team. This is a very combo-based team fight that Shopify are drafting for. So if I'm FlyQuest now, I'm thinking about denying, hard engaged champs and champs that have CC that are coming in through the jungle. To my mind, I'm thinking about things like, okay, I don't want contracts on like a Skarner. I don't want Seos on a Rel, and these types of picks that are going to really provide that lockdown for them. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what FlyQuest does actually target here in the bans.
Yeah, the AoE damage on these 3 champions is just absolutely massive if they can get that lockdown that you're talking about. Over on the other side, though, Alistar is a good champion to be able to survive situations like that, since you can pop the Unbreakable Will and you should not die even to the Equalizer or Bullet Time unless the opponents are way far ahead.
Ezreal is very shifty.
Yeah, Ezreal, I like the fact that FlyQuest targeted just the Varus in the draft, and then they use the other picks to target contracts. They're saying, okay, you're probably going to want that Yone first, but if you take it, we get to have the Ezreal, and there's no handshake.
And the Lilia, obviously, good pairing with both the Yone as well as the MF. The sleepy bullet time, you put him to sleep. The bullet time does not break that sleep at all, so you can actually channel out a full bullet time over that sleep from Lilia, so that's why they're going to be able to ban that pairing out. Another one of those strong ones, even though it is kind of the more like traditional engage that you would think of. Not a surprising banning. The Bard does surprise me a little bit, I will be honest, because I don't see the Bard as really kind of like the best natural pairing for these. You can throw down your ulti on someone like a Victor and then try to layer that CC out of it, but they don't really have that much CC to layer right now. So the Bard kind of surprises me, but I guess they're worried potentially about Seos just being able to move around the map.
Yeah, I think it's more of it's a player thing. It's more of, yeah, they have to have the timing right to be able to drop the equalizers and the Yone ults right as it ends. But at the same time, it's more of just Seos loves roaming. He loves working together with contracts. We don't want him on this pick that's so good at it. Over on the other side, though, Shopify banning out double top lane picks. They do not want their Rumble dealing with the Renekton or the Ambessa from Bwipo. But let's see what FlyQuest want to take here. That Skarner that got hovered, you mentioned that one as something that Shopify would want to put priority on. So if you're FlyQuest, you're just saying, hey, good pick for us, good deny from you.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because I was pretty surprised that Skarner was actually going to get left up, because it just feels like such an obvious jungle pick that would pair well with their composition, especially because Sejuani's already gone, and those are kind of really the 2 main prio jungle picks as far as tanks do go. You can go Maokai, but Maokai is kind of pretty far down the tier list compared to those other 2, and we'll see. It still obviously works. You do have the lockdown. You have the ultimate to throw down, and that is going to be the answer here.
Okay.
And then they're just going to draft more CC guaranteed. So it is going to be the Nautilus coming through. Not the exact ones I was talking about, but it's the same idea here. They get denied the Skarner, so they do grab the Maokai and the Nautilus instead of going for the Rel. You obviously have the point-and-click ultimate. That can always follow through on someone like the Ezreal here. Yorick, I think this is a super good matchup into Rumble, by the way. I think it is really good. So the fact that that wasn't banned out could be punished pretty heavily. It's interesting that they prioritize banning the Renekton as well as the Mbessa here as those protection bans for Fudge and not the Yorick. Because, yeah, I do think this is actually a very tough matchup for the Rumble. You can get prio pretty early on if you're hitting your E's. You get access to the wave, you get those ghouls up. And Rumble really struggles to actually deal with those ghouls. He doesn't have a good answer for Cage either. You can kind of lock him down with the ghouls on him and just start beating on him. Yes, if you get behind on Yorick, you're always going to have those struggles, but I do think it's a really good isolated 1v1.
Especially since Shopify banned out the Yorick pick in game number 1. They're aware that Bwipo is willing to lock this in. He's willing to use this in that magic bag of tricks that he has here in draft. And this time around, I'm not going to lie, I am excited to see how well Bwipo does with it.
I mean, clearly they just weren't worried about this matchup. I mean, Jace is where he has brought it out before, and Jace is also where we then saw Castle bring it out. In that matchup, that is kind of the one that I think more people are saying, all right, this is a good Yorick matchup. So maybe they actually don't agree with me and they think, no, this is actually quite good for Rumble, or they just were more concerned about the other ones.
All right, non-subscribers, we'll see you in 30 seconds. But for everybody else, Shopify's got to shake off that last game a little bit. Honestly, focus on the good points. Focus on the fact that, hey, these guys will make mistakes. They can still blunder. We got the big punish last game in the mid lane. It's just about having the more solid execution, the better communication. Like what you were talking about in the fights afterwards, Palafox going up to stop Bwipo split pushing in the top lane. What if he just comes down and plays with the rest of the team and then you can get a big team fight win? What if the Otacon doesn't get stolen away? There's a lot of what ifs that actually have a lot of hope behind them for Shopify.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only kind of problem with it is that has been true for almost every one of their losses, but they have a lot of losses, right? And so, at a certain point, you got to start closing out games, and that is where it is just really hurting for Shopify. Fudge is going to play Phase Rush, which is interesting. Obviously going to help you, potentially kite out from and avoid some of this damage from Yorick. But that being said, if you get tagged by the Cage and you proc your Phase Rush, it's not really doing anything for you. You still have to be able to actually punch through the cage before you can actually get
really
away.
Fast into the wall.
You're obviously hoping that you can proc the Phase Rush and then dodge the cage or proc it, early enough, but I'm just going to be interested to really watch that 1v1 top and see how effective the Phase Rush actually is, because it's unique with Yorick, right? How this champion works is, once you actually hit that CC of the cage, there's not really much you can do about it. And Bwipo has just played so many different champs, 8 different unique champions now. And this is, I believe, the 11th game, so he has a couple doubles, but pretty much he has been cooking. Castle as well has 8 different champs. Top lane, this is the best top lane pro meta I feel like we have ever had. I really have been enjoying it. You can play carries, you can play tanks, you can play AD, you can play split pushers, you can play, AP team fighters. You can kind of play anything, and I think it is making it very interesting to watch.
Some days when I'm really sad, Azale, I go back and I read the patch notes where they killed lane swaps just to remind myself that there is some good in the world still. And I think that this meta is a bit of evidence of that.
Yep.
We can have some really cool matchups.
Lane,
Now that they're bottom lane, it's Ezreal Varus Town. Like we're working on that.
Yep.
But top lane, I've been having a lot of fun watching these matchups as well. I love it when there's more interesting counter pick options available. And I'm also going to be curious again, since we're on this new map, since Grub spawn is delayed from 6 to 8, how that's going to affect the early laning phase of this game, just like last one.
Absolutely, and I mean, you can see already, like I said, you can get prio in this matchup. Bwipo can get the push here. He misses with the goop, unfortunately, and that is actually pretty much, it sounds funny to say, but basically every Yorick lane is like how many E's can you hit, right? Like every good matchup is how many E's can you hit. I will say, like ever since they actually changed Yorick, I feel like the AI changed on the ghouls, which makes it a lot harder to actually pressure for tower plates, because the ghouls now will ignore the tower and hit the enemy champions, which will draw tower aggro onto you. So it's very tough to actually ever walk up and just whack the tower itself. Whereas in the past, I feel like the AI was different and you used to be able to do that. So that is one of kind of the negatives about this little mini reshaping or rework or whatever you want to call it. But as long as you do have ghouls ready, you can scrap with that Rumble, and I think Bwipo is just going to be in a really comfy spot here. I mean, he clearly wasn't worried about it. There you go. You proc phase rush. All right, brother, you're caged in. Still got a pretty good trade on him, and was able to chunk him down. But clearly, Bwipo is not super worried about the 1v1 because he went Conqueror, so heavy scaling, not Grasp.
Bvoy and Seos doing a good job trading into Busio and Masu here. Alistar, traditionally one of those champions that you love him for what he can do later on in the game, but the early lane phase is a bit of a weak point, a soft spot for him there. And ooh, nice use of the bouncing bullet to get the bonus damage onto Masu, as Bvoy and Seos have control down here in the bottom side.
Yep, and both junglers, they killed their camps, and then they killed the Scuttle Crab. And now they're going to go back to Raptors.
Okay.
So they are still power farming away. Contract's looking for an invade here. Q-Smite, very strong from the Maokai to secure. We'll see if he can get it, because he is taking some damage, but there is no Smite on Inspired. So Inspired's just trying to delay this, but won't be able to get it. And Contracts takes away pretty much the entire camp, and now can go back to his Raptor. So that is a nice little aggressive move from him. And this has been something we've seen from Contracts a number of times, you know, mostly on the Neferia and stuff, where they're constantly attacking the enemy Raptors. But I'd like to see it again, you know, in this situation on the Maokai, where you are so good at actually securing that camp.
Plus, he's just using his health as a resource, right? It doesn't matter that he gets chunked for half HP. It's not like we're playing season...
What your passive is for.
Yeah, it's not like we're playing Season 1 jungle here where the creeps can actually kill you. You just walk back in, you use your own chicken camp as a nice little fuel-up station, and he's right back to 90%.
People don't know the terrors of the chicken camp in the old days,
Oh,
man.
the Wraith camp. Remember, they weren't even chickens back then. They were spooky ghosts.
Those things would mess you up.
Yeah, the people who only started playing League like after those first couple of crazy seasons with all the stuff don't remember, like, okay, you better be Warwick or Rammus. There's no jungle item.
You're
you buy a cloth armor.
Like, you're going in there.
It's going to be a bit of a rough
gank?
time.
I'm just trying to win the 1v1 against the mobs.
Jungle is gulag, PvE style. These days, though, not quite the same. So, no big deal for Contracts there. I like the fact that he continues to play aggressively like that in the enemy jungle, looking to steal away whatever little resources he can. 5.5 minutes into the game, we are seeing bot lane recalls send themselves back down into bot lane. Yet again, it just means what we were talking about earlier. They're not going to be having that same level of like macro movement as early because they just don't need to. There's not a reason to walk top lane for another 2 minutes.
Yep, exactly. And last game we just saw a delayed swap up towards top. You know, they did that for the grubs when they did spawn, and Shopify was able to grab that, which was obviously very nice for them. At the end of the day here, Bwipo does have his base delayed there by Fudge, so instead he is going to stay around and try to push this one out. Probably can just pop the Maiden. Inspire going to be on this Dragon here early, which means FlyQuest are going to have an opportunity to potentially go for both the Grubs and the first Dragon. Again, something you really couldn't do last patch.
Yeah, this is what's really interesting to me on this one, is the fact that Inspired is going for the Dragon early. Like, it started that thing, what, like right after it spawned? Whereas in the previous game, he started up the Dragon pretty much right as the Void Grubs were spawning. Right. But now, since there's no Smite, it's easy for Shopify to step up, steal away that crab. It is a silver lining. Like, you would much rather be able to have the Drake. Like, FlyQuest will happily take that trade. But now it does mean that Contracts will be able to move towards this top side.
Exactly. He just wants to go right back to the Raptors. He's just running straight for it. So, yes, Inspired did get the Dragon. That's going to be nice. But it is a couple camp advantage here for Contracts, and he is going to be able to grab these Raptors as well. No one's moving to stop him. Inspired's likely to be too late. Because Contracts does have a Smite anyway. So this is just good stuff here from Contracts, and he is just incrementally creating an advantage. Couple hundred gold lead there for himself in the jungle, and now going to look to potentially put some pressure on Quad, but Quad is respecting it, playing safe. So Contracts just pushes out the wave here with Palafox and goes back down to his Raptors on the other side, and it's just going to be able to continue farming away. The Krugs now spawned also, and Bwipo has come back to base. He's 2-0 on Yorick, 9-5 in the 2025 solo queue here. And I don't know if he has other accounts that he does play on off stream or anything like that, but he's definitely one of the early adopters as far as pro with that Yorick, and I do think it's really an underrated pick, and it's something that more people should have in their wheelhouse. It is situational. I don't think it's a blind pick, but it really is quite strong.
Especially considering it's strong into things like Jace or Rumble that are traditionally considered like very difficult to deal with for a lot of meta champions, right? Like Jace and Rumble will bully a lot of traditional melee champions off of having pressure or presence early on in top lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I do think that this little kind of rework that they did made you actually, like, he's still a bad team fighter, but it made you much more of a team fighter because you can actually get Graves from queuing champions, right? The fact that you couldn't do that before kind of meant you really had no choice but to always stay in the side lane.
Walk down a
right?
lane.
Exactly. Like this is really all you could do because if you show up to a team fight with no ghouls, you are so weak.
Oh, Masu taking a lot of damage there from the bullet time as then they try to invest the damage into Busio, but he hits the level 6 at just the right time. Busio staying alive thanks to Unbreakable Will as Inspired is here behind the wall, but Seos and P-Boy not low enough HP there. It was actually so critical that Busio hit level 6 off of that minion dying, because if not, he dies to the follow-up damage there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, or at the very least, he would have had to flash out instead of re-engaging, right? You know, they did use the heal, they held on the flashes, but they spend their ultimates, and Masu's going to be really happy that he was able to get out of this situation. I mean, it was a BF buy to a glowing moat and a tier, right? So
just garbage.
It's just absolute garbage. And now he has a real buy, right? Now he has Sheen, double longsword. So now Ezreal is at a much stronger point of the game. So being able to get out of there with any sort of casualties down on the bot side is really nice. Definitely important to have some heal cut when you are playing against York, especially if it is going to be Conqueror. Obviously, more healing there. But you have a lot of sustain with your Q. So Fudge got the early Oblivion Orb. That is obviously going to delay his first item completion. But you can see Bwipo, he knows Inspire's on bot side. He has to play safe. He's just sitting back and trying to play pretty respectfully here. Does not want to overextend, get locked down, and die. Because there's such a cost to dying when you lose your Maiden. Your Maiden cooldown does not start until it dies. And it is 145 seconds right now for Bwipo. So
that's a long time.
That is an eternity in the early game. Like, that's the rest of your early 1v1 laning phase is just ruined if you actually die or even just get ganked and they kill the Maiden. So you really do have to be careful with it. That's why, again, he can't walk up. The little ghouls will aggro, but he's able to grab a plate. And then you walk back and you leash your Maiden to make sure that it's not overstaying and getting hit by the tower and getting poked out.
Well, now FlyQuest and Shopify are very, very close in gold. It's a slight lead for Shopify Rebellion at this point. This is a pretty common story for a lot of their games, I feel like. Worth pointing out also that Contracts did pick up all 3 grubs while Inspired was down there covering for the 2v2 aggro. Equalizer dropped up here. Flash over the wall from Fudge. He wants to keep going after Bwipo. Fudge with the solo kill for first blood. Sees Bwipo's counter pick and does not care.
Nicely done there by Fudge. He just kind of found the opportunity, slows him down with the equalizer, clearly knew his damage thresholds there. Like, he doesn't even have as much combat power as far as the buy, but this is really well done as far as, you know, getting the poke down onto Bwipo. As soon as the E misses, he knows Bwipo can't really fight him, so he just drops the equalizer. Yes, it's a nice cage there from Bwipo, but it doesn't matter because he's already slowed down by the Electro Harpoon. The Phase Thruster's proc, he just flashes over the cage, and it's able to finish him off there. It is such a window of opportunity. Every time York misses the E, he is vulnerable, and Fudge is able to punish there.
That was...
Can he get him with the cage? You can actually bump him with the cage. Oh, that was... I think a lot of people don't know that. You can actually bump with the edge of the cage. So that was pretty close to actually stopping Fudge.
Well, Fudge still gets away, and that's a pretty big win there for Shopify Rebellion, who are now going after their first Drake of the game. FlyQuest did acquire that first one pretty much right after spawn, as Shopify have it down below half HP. FlyQuest still looking for an opportunity to enter into this bot side river. Contracts and Palafox putting the damage into the objective. FlyQuest, they don't have enough men close by to contest before the objective is gone. Now Quad getting caught out here as Palafox wants to go in. Fate sealed, looking for a ton of damage here onto the enemy mid laner with Contracts trying to help him, but they just don't have enough burst to finish the job. Quad survives with 200 HP.
That is Catalyst Grasp. That is a tanky victor there. Would have been pretty rough if he goes down, you know, knowing they were coming from that angle. Bwipo is here though, and Contracts has no flash.
Yeah, Contracts has walked himself into a rather precarious position. Inspired missing the ulti there. Contracts keeping himself alive with a nice dodge. And now Fudge has arrived, and you can see Palafox and Fudge not going any further. Inspired does have enough HP. There's no way they're going to be able to force him down. A couple of close calls for both sides there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Contracts dodging the York cage and the ultimate. Both of those are required. I think if either one hits, he is dead, because if the cage hits, the ulti is hitting for sure from Skarner, and if the ulti hits, you're just going to get pulled back into the team and ran down. It is also worth touching on the fact that it is going to be tank on the Maokai here for Contracts. He is unending the Spare Rush. It is not AP. He is Blue Smite. I think this is absolutely correct. When you already have the Rumble, you don't need double AP. You need some sort of engage. You need some sort of lockdown. So being able to play this style does work quite well. And Shopify, again, a nice early advantage here. It is 1,000 gold. It is not, the end of the game or anything even close to it. But this team just consistently shows they can compete in games, at least in the early game, at least in the mid game, but they can't really close them. So we'll see if they can actually finally get a big win here. I mean, taking down even one game against FlyQuest would be a confidence boost. It shows you that, hey, we can get across the finish line. Yeah. And if you can do it against one of the best teams in the league, then you should be able to do it against some of the other ones too.
Well, we've got a minute and a half until Herald spawns, so we'll see how well FlyQuest can shut down Shopify's current momentum at that objective. I feel like Rift Herald is kind of the line where we hit the point of Shopify starting to get a little woozy when they have a lead. Generally, after the Herald is taken or completed, that's when things can start to get a little messy.
They're still on their first beer.
Yeah, exactly. The Herald is the
night
second.
Is young.
The Herald is the second beer. That one's the one.
Otacon is where the tequila shots come out.
That's where things start to get a little bit.
Can't even remember what happened.
A little bit tricky.
You just ended up at the lose screen.
You wake up in your own fountain. What's going on? Why is the Nexus on fire? But Palafox now could be in a little bit of danger. Has to use Fate Seal to try to get away as Busio wants to cut off that escape route. Does find a nice headbutt pull. Forces the flash out of the Yone. So that's ult flash down on Palafox with only 40 seconds until the Rift Herald spawns. Even if Shopify wants to go full 5v5 for this, those are two massive tools on the Yone they don't have available. As Fudge now going to find Whippo walking back into the lane, who does hit him there with that Morning Mist, I believe is the name of it, as Contract's going to lead the way. They want the dive. Fudge going in for the flash again. Whippo getting cooked. Contract's taking a kill. And Shopify Rebellion make the dive work.
Yeah, that was actually really close. I think if Whippo actually focused his damage onto Fudge, he probably would have just gotten the kill onto Fudge. Contract's always going to reset the aggro with his W when he gets low, so it's very hard to finish him off afterwards there. But Whippo narrowly is taken down, can't get a counter kill. That definitely hurts. Again, he loses the Maiden, so now he is maidenless up in that top lane for a couple minutes.
Not the way you want to be, Mr. Gravekeeper. Nope. Not the way you want to be. Palafox right back into position down here in bottom lane as Seos finds a dredge line nicely onto Busio, who does not have Unbreakable Will on the Alistar, so he's forced to flash over the wall to get away. That is a big summoner spell to get from the Alistar.
Unironically, that was a ward placement diff there. So FlyQuest had the pink ward on the very edge of that side brush, so it didn't spot the ward that Shopify have on the very other end. If you place it, it doesn't actually see from the full side to side, so he had vision on him, and then Seos is able to get that hook as a result. Fudge getting aggressive, but Inspired is here this time.
Yeah, this time it's FlyQuest who are bringing extra firepower into the top lane battle, and Fudge will get shut down. Money over in Whippo's pocket as bullet time doesn't get enough. Seos trying to keep Whippo locked up inside that ultimate, but Whippo with the flash gets away.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get a kill, but it does get 2 flashes, so that bullet time's still very high value. And I think this was a needed gank for Whippo. You cannot allow your Yorick to just get pounded by ganks in a side lane. Like, if he keeps dying, he's not going to be relevant, right? Like, you don't just come back in the game as Yorick by going to a team fight. You need to be relevant in that 1v1. You need to be able to threaten towers. And this is going to be not only the kill, but it's going to be the turret form as well, because Yorick crushes through these towers here. Even without the ult, the ghouls are going to do a lot of work. So he's going to be able to push in this wave, get the kill, and we'll see where he is gold-wise now. In fact, he's going to be about 700, 800 gold ahead of where Fudge is. So he's going to be feeling really good about his position in the game after that.
Yeah, nicely done there. As Shopify Rebellion go ahead and start up the third Drake of the game. It is Hextech Rift, 1 Dragon to 1 so far in the count, and Shopify have everybody that's not Fudge already down here. Fudge has his teleport ready to use. If FlyQuest want to fight this, they know it would have to be a full send. Shopify are already here so early that FlyQuest just sees it as a waste of time. There's no point in going over to contest. It's already going to be claimed. So instead, Masu taking up position in mid, getting that wave shoved out. FlyQuest just happy to not fight for now, bide a little bit more time.
And as we go further and further into the game, not going to be able to get too much here. I think Palafox should just be able to snap back.
Yeah.
I do think that this matchup between Contracts and Inspired, very interesting. Inspired obviously looked at, really as the best jungler in the league. these two going head-to-head, we've seen them go time and time again. Contracts, I think, playing quite well this game, has been able to put some pressure on top lane, has been pretty successful with his invades over towards Raptors. He's about 5 camps ahead, and you can see, as far as, KDA, as far as kill participation, like, he's involved in everything that Shopify does. This guy really is the engine for Shopify. It feels like if Contracts is having a bad game, nothing is happening at all for his team. So, it's a lot of pressure on his shoulders to make things happen. You can see the career head-to-head, obviously really favoring Inspired, but I feel like if there is a way to win, it is Contracts having a good game, and I feel like he's been having one so far here.
All right, that Maokai is going to need to find some picks as the game continues, going to need to set up some good angles with the ultimate, especially with Shopify. Ooh, Palafox wanted the Fate Sealed there but missed it. Especially with Shopify, we've been talking about them having these macro struggles, these big fumbles in critical moments. I feel like Maokai is one of those champions where if you really hit the right timing and the right angle on that ulti around one of these neutral fights, around one of these like tight corridor fights in a jungle somewhere, you can change the game.
Absolutely, and I do feel like, unironically, simplifying your draft and simplifying your win conditions when you're struggling in these situations, I feel like sometimes when I say that kind of thing, people take it almost like as like insulting. It's like, no, they need to play the best style. Their comp is pretty much point and click ultis, throw out all your ultimates onto the squishy people.
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward. I think it is actually really strong. These drafts can be very effective. If you can lock down Masu or Quad in a team fight, Rumble ulti, Yone ulti, Bullet Time, Nautilus ult, Maokai ult, so much CC, so much point and click damage. It is a recipe for success, so we'll see if they can actually pull it off here. But they definitely are in with a chance in this one. They've gotten the last 2 dragons, so they are up on objectives here, and they are close to feats. They're 1 kill away from potentially getting those feats.
All right, let's see if they can get it done as the Herald is summoned up in mid lane. 1 charge, I would think, takes this turret down, or at least it's close. Nicely done there to pick up that turret. Sadly for them, it's not the first one of the game, so
is charge an auto attack?
We're not. No, a charge is definitely not an auto attack. There's no way. That is 100% a spell. It has a cooldown. Shelly's only allowed to use it once per turret.
Is it a spell or?
It is a spell. It is a spell.
Shelly's just out for an aggressive run.
That is a spell.
Is running a spell?
Run it? No, you are using words incorrectly.
If I run into the wall, is that a spell?
In a ridiculous manner. That is what you are doing. You are creating.
Are you telling me I'm magic?
Fake news. Yeah. Yes, exactly. You are doing some
cast spells by charging into walls
right now. You can cast something. I don't know what exactly it is you're casting.
I feel like I've got you painted into a corner on this one. I'm not going to lie.
You're doing something over there. We got about 1 minute and 30, though, until our next dragon is live. Shopify have taken both of the last 2 without a real contest from FlyQuest, and I feel like it's kind of FlyQuest waiting until this clock has a 2 as the first number, because that is the Shopify blunder zone.
Yeah.
And it's like FlyQuest is just saying, okay, early on, we're not going to play into the part of the game where they're strong and they're able to, like, find the macro moves they need to. We're going to wait until the pressure starts to mount a little more. We're going to wait until the part of the game where they normally get a little bit nervous, and then we're going to make a move.
And I will say, unlike AD Nidalee, AD Nidalee can split push, can't really put on nearly as much threat. If you ignore York in a side lane, all of a sudden your base is gone. Like, this guy kills towers so fast. The ghouls are absorbing additional tower shots. They're dealing damage to the towers. Your Q bonus damage works on the turrets. You're getting the Sheen procs constantly. So you have got to be respectful to this. Right now they have Palafox, who is over there trying to answer. I think at this point they don't really want Fudge lined up in that 1v1 because if he overextends, he could get ran down by the Yorick or killed off by a potential gank. So it's safer there for Palafox.
Ooh, nice.
And he is able to grab that. Nicely done by Palafox. Grabs the blue, grabs that Gromp as well. Knows that would be folks. They could actually look for this TP. This is dangerous.
Yeah, that's Quad arriving, but luckily Inspired was right behind him. If Shopify did try to go after this tanky Victor with Rod of Ages and Leandries, they wouldn't have been able to kill him before Inspired arrived with the Ishtal impact through the wall, follows it up with an Impale. Could have gone very badly, but Shopify have control over the bot side river for now. FlyQuest, however, bringing some manpower down here to try to contest it. Both AD carries are in the neighborhood, but neither is here yet. You can see Masu making his way down with the portal, while B-Voice shoves up the mid wave.
You can see Palafox just went back to base. He has the teleport available, and he just got his shield bow. So will he actually go up towards top? He's going to go and answer and then look for a TP angle if they need him. They're going to try to 4v4.
Okay, the Dragon is aggroed, but no real high DPS onto it. Going to lose patience, go right back to the pit. Bwipo is Sterix purchased, walking down mid lane.
Yeah, they're trying to delay for Bwipo to get the mid lane push so he can actually join without having to TP. Palafox is also moving now, but Palafox is a little bit closer. It's very, very close.
Okay, True Shot Barrage fired off by Masu, but he doesn't find a whole lot out of it just yet. Little bit more as the Maokai ulti flies through, but they only engage onto Inspired. Seos having to get back away as Bwipo joins into the fight. Quad's off on the side, the bullet time over the top, looking to shred through the Dragon, but it's going to be slain by Contracts on Shopify, as now they have to scramble to try to get back to a good position. Palafox, Fate sealed back over the wall. Shopify Rebellion take the objective and disengage with no deaths.
Yeah, the question is, can FlyQuest force the Otacon? And it looks like the answer is they're going to try. Bwipo is starting this up. Yorick can solo this thing. He lost his maiden in the fight, which really does suck. It's going to reduce his damage a lot, and they are aware of it, so he's going to have to pull off now, but it's kind of still leashed. Now there's an opportunity potentially for Shopify to say, you know what, we're just going to take it. We're just going to say thanks for the leash and try to start this up. Will they keep it aggro? The Ghoul is doing a good job of it, and now, yeah, Contracts has moved on. He is hitting this thing, so now FlyQuest has got to get back out on the map and try to stop him. It's getting down.
FlyQuest is making their way over, but the Otacon is burning very quickly. Shopify Rebellion already have it down to 2,000 HP. They still need a little bit more damage, and Thornbound Otacon is going to be claimed by Contracts and Shopify Rebellion. Now Seos is getting locked up as Contracts tries to use Quad as an escape mechanism. Shopify have lost their support, and surely more bodies are going to hit the floor. Fudge wants to take one with him, and he's going to claim the feat of warfare to do it. Palafox falls here too, so Shopify lose 3 men, but critically, they get 3 kills before FlyQuest does. It earns them the feat of warfare. Fudge dies a hero, and Shopify take the objective.
He's getting a statue for that one. Turns around, gets the kill with the overheat onto Bwipo, and Bwipo's ghouls really kind of backfired here. They kept it leashed for so long that allowed Shopify to get over here and say, you know what? They all reset. We just start this. Even with the gates, it's too slow. The Hex gates are trying to get them out there in a hurry, but Inspired isn't here. Bwipo has no ult. Busio going to pop the ulti early to try to get in, but it's already secured. Inspired arrives in the back line here, and this is where things obviously going to get really tough for Shopify. Seos goes down. Everyone has bought. It's just a full-on run here from Shopify, but Bwipo turns around, trying to fight Fudge. Fudge overheats, takes him down, gets that kill, grabs them the feat of warfare, and it is a very even game.
My bad. I think I should call stronger. I think I should carry that fight. My bad.
Yeah, Palafox has his 2-item spike, so felt he could have done more. We'll see if they can get him here.
Okay, now Busio getting locked up at the very start of the fight as the bullet time flies out. The FlyQuest support barely getting himself away as now Contracts has to be careful here on the right side flank. Low HP on Palafox, Contracts, and Busio together. Quad also chunked down to half. But with FlyQuest having stronger health bars overall, Masu wants to use the momentum to try to take down the Tier 1 turret here in mid lane, and FlyQuest will do just that now. Slightly over a 1,000 gold lead for them.
Yeah, and we're seeing Shopify do a really good job of actually just stalling out Bwipo in the side lanes. He hasn't been able to really progress the game a tremendous amount. Hasn't been able to take down a Tier 2 tower. That is where the game can really blow open. If you can get early Tier 2s, it's such a big boost of gold that it can get tough. But Fudge maybe going to get chased down here.
Yeah, Fudge has been caught in the cage, but now Palafox is ready to assist his top laner. Bwipo ends up falling before he can get the last Q to take down the enemy Rumble, and Palafox saves the day.
Yeah, that sucks there for Bwipo. Again, not only do you die, you lose the ulti, so now you're not going to be strong on the map for quite a while. If he wasn't there, if Palafox doesn't make that roam, maybe you get the kill. Maybe you push for the Tier 2. That can be really big for Bwipo's game. But instead, great roam there from Palafox. Gets down, changes the fight, saves his top laner, and puts Bwipo in a pretty tough spot. Because Shopify are less than a minute and a half away from a potential soul, and that is a Hex-Tech soul.
Yeah.
That could be a major win condition for them. The gold pretty much dead even, but the objectives are in their favor. The feats are in their favor. And you're seeing they're even getting some of these early upgraded boots. It is 500 gold. It's a lot more effective now. So Fudge has already grabbed his. Palafox has already grabbed his. And that gold graph, back and forth. It looks like these big swings, but honestly, it's only, 1,500 plus and minus. So, even that cliff right there is like, 1,000, 1,500 gold swing. It's not that crazy, but it is really on a knife's edge.
This one is going to be an intense fight for Soul. I think Shopify really needs this if they want to be able to win this game, because I feel like Shopify losing the Soul here is enough of a tilter to make their coordination during the mid-game rattled enough for FlyQuest to continue building up more of a gold lead and be able to continue to punish. So for Shopify, I think this upcoming Soul fight is just absolutely critical. This is where if you really want a shot at taking these guys down, you need to have a big fight here.
Yeah, absolutely. But going up to the top side, if we can get a quick shot of the top lane minion wave, if there's not going to be a fight here, they're going to engage, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. We got Contracts under a little bit of pressure as FlyQuest are ready to rally around this mid lane, already committing the teleport from Quad because they want to make sure they can move over as a powerful unit to establish control over the bot side river. But Palafox is ready to arrive here on this right side flank. Whippo also marching down the bottom lane here, gaining priority over that. He has the Maiden up again as the rest of Shopify squaring off against FlyQuest.
Look at top lane.
Around the side of mid. Top lane, yes, the big wave colliding with the tier 2 turret as the shots continue getting thrown back and forth. Maokai ulti to disengage as Shopify are looking to fall back. They want to claim the Drake, and they've already found it. Nicely done from Shopify Rebellion now with a Hextech Soul. Equalizer flies down over the top as it stops FlyQuest from approaching in time. Fudge is forced to flash over the wall as now Contracts in a little bit of danger, going to get chased down. They need more damage onto the enemy jungler, but they aren't going to find it. Nice bullet time in the clutch. Huge for Shopify as Fudge takes the kill, but it was B-Boy bringing the bullets. Nicely done. They'll take the kill, they'll take the Drake, they'll take the Soul, they'll take the fight. Shopify Rebellion, get it done.
That was huge there for Shopify. Grabbing the Hextech Soul is going to make things really difficult for FlyQuest. That is such a big injection of power into their team, and now they're just pinging over onto the Baron. Inspired is still dead for 20. I think they maybe want to try to make a move onto this. B-Boy is over here. There is a blue ward on it, but they're just starting it right now. They're even going to TP in. Contracts has got to get over here as well. They're going to fully commit and just try to force the Baron.
Okay, so the big thing is there's no ults on Shopify right now. Even though they are in a 5v4, FlyQuest, they will not be punished in these tight corridors like you would normally expect from this composition. But the Baron is claimed. Shopify Rebellion. I wanted to see mid-game calls. I wanted to see macro moves. I wanted to see coordination. And right now, they are delivering.
Yeah, that was really decisive there. They win the fight. They get the kill on Inspired, who barely was missing his flash with that bullet time. And they say, you know what? We're not going to sit on just that advantage. We're going to force the Baron. They go over there. They realize that FlyQuest isn't in a position to contest or even really delay. We'll see if they can find a pick here. FlyQuest stacking in the brush, but can't find it. And now things are going to get really tough. You know, you're dealing with that Baron buff. Wivo can't really just push out in the side lanes. They're going to look for an engage.
Oh, immediately Contracts jumps into 4, opens up some space for Palafox to follow up with a nice Fate Seal. The Equalizer comes down over the top, but nobody on FlyQuest is dead just yet except for the Maiden. Seos does not hit the dredge line on Debussio, and now he might pay for it with his life instead. Seos so very low. Inspired ends up getting the kill on him as Shopify now have lost the fight and have to back away. A little bit more damage from Masu could seal the fate of Contracts. Palafox wants to cover for him, but a beautiful Essence shift coming out from the Ezreal. Masu making sure there's 2 bodies in the dirt wearing Shopify jerseys, and FlyQuest immediately punch right back.
Yeah, that is huge. Being able to wipe off some of those Baron buffs, really stifle the Baron push completely there. But Shopify, I feel like they just got a bit overeager. You don't need to force that fight in that position, but they clearly thought they were in a good position. They thought they would be able to actually win the fight, you know, with the Baron buff, having just bought. So Contracts just kind of forced the issue, and FlyQuest survived with really low health bars. Moss was able to chase him down afterwards. But, you know, you can just push the waves. You can play for that. And Contracts, while he gets a pretty decent engage, he's very separated from the rest of the team, and Fudge was not there yet.
Oh, Fudge, he's right there, though. Quad is just burned to a crisp. Well done by Fudge.
Yeah, Fudge getting a really big kill there, but yeah, Contracts engaged, but Fudge was not in position in that last fight. So by the time he gets there, the fight was already kind of decided. So it just got way too overeager. And it's these plays they have got to be careful about, because while you're in a great spot, FlyQuest can still win this game. And these ghouls are so pesky. Bwipo is doing a really good job. You know, what I was trying to highlight before that dragon is, so if you go to a side lane, you summon your 4 ghouls. Once they are actually attacking the minion wave, you can then walk away and they will continue walking down that lane. So if you go and you force someone to group away from that, they can eventually actually take down tier 2s. They can push, you know, infinitely against the minions as well. They're very strong in the later stages of the game. So it is one of those frustrating things to deal with, because York can be pressuring multiple lanes at the same time with the help of those ghouls.
Very frustrating to deal with indeed. Those split-pushing mastery types of champs creating so much free pressure. But Shopify have been putting a lot of pressure on the team fights overall. They have been putting themselves in a spot where FlyQuest have not been able to really navigate around these big wombo combos.
Yeah, absolutely. Is going to be very difficult, I think, for FlyQuest here. We'll see if they can hold on a little bit and try to make a heroic comeback. That mid lane tier 2 looking like it's gone. Palafox does take a lot of damage, is going to be able to finish it off here, though. And this is Bwipo on pros talking about a tier list of the 3 worst players in the league. He put Fudge on there. Fudge has been playing great.
Oh, Quad getting caught again. The combo, man. They're doing it exactly like they need to. Equalizer over the top to slow him down. The Maokai ulti comes through to root him up. Then B-Boy just flicked the safety off and rat-a-tat-tat guns him down. Beautifully done from Shopify, up to a 2,000 gold lead yet again.
Yeah, they're looking really good. I mean, B-Boy has had some pretty effective ultimates. It sounds funny to say because he's 0-0-2, but I feel like the ultis have been pretty fight-defining at a number of different times, but definitely want to give Fudge his flowers. You know, Bwipo saying that the FlyQuest coaching staff has him as one of the 3 worst players in the entire league. I feel like Fudge has outclassed Bwipo in both games. He's done more than him, I feel like. Even in the loss, I felt like he was more effective on the Jace and was able to deal with that. This time around, you know, Fudge is able to get the solo kill, even with Bwipo having the counter pick. Yes, he also got some jungle help there later on, but Fudge has really been doing a good job. Gets a solo kill on Quad, you know, turns around and gets that kill onto Bwipo to grab them the feats of strength as well. He's been playing well and has the death cap.
And I'm glad we're able to celebrate Shopify's successes in this game, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. They still have to make it to the Nexus. This is still a team that we have seen so many leads out of before that have failed to translate into victories, and the Elder Dragon is spawning in less than 30 seconds. This is
the great equalizer.
The great equalizer. Exactly. This is the one. The rest of the game up until now does not matter. If you get the miracle fight at Elder, you win.
Yeah, I mean, that is the truth, man. Every fight is not equal in League of Legends. These later ones over these big objectives matter so much more. So even though Contracts, it feels like he's winning all the smites, even though Shopify are having control, they've got to make it happen here. We'll see if they can do it.
Okay, Inspired immediately finds the engage. It's on to Contracts. If they kill the enemy jungler right here, it's tragedy for Shopify Rebellion. The Maokai tries to get away, twisted advance back onto the Dragon, but now a nice counterattack coming out from Fudge and the rest of Shopify. FlyQuest health bars have taken some serious damage, and Palafox has made a teleport into the fight. He's found his way into the back line. He's found his way onto Quad. Fudge is still burning, but so is FlyQuest. Nobody's dead just yet, but now everybody falls. FlyQuest has been erased off the map. Shopify Rebellion get a perfect ace for the Elder Dragon.
Oh my God, that TP as well. It looked like Palafox was going to join way too late, but when he TPs in, he gets so much damage on Masu, and then just leaves Masu alive to go over on a Quad, and then it gets them both low. The snapback kills them both. He gets a double kill on both the carries at the same time. They get the Dragon, they win the fight, and Shopify are pushing to get the dub.
Contracts is left to clean up the buff itself, but Isaac, I don't think they're going to need it. The only person that might even be alive to try to stop this push will be Busio, a lone Alistar against an Elder Dragon Shopify. They drafted the Wombo combo comp. They did not falter in the mid-game. They made the calls to win the game 12-6, 35 minutes in. Shopify's taking us to game 3.
That's the biggest win for Shopify so far this split.